Sergeant Mia Jackson wasn't looking for trouble, she was just trying to report for duty. But the moment she stepped out of her car in full uniform at a quiet gas station in Gahanna, Ohio, all hell broke loose. Within seconds, she was swarmed, slammed against her own hood, and handcuffed like a criminal. While strangers filmed her humiliation, her crime, wearing the uniform she earned, carrying the ID she fought for. And still they called her a fraud. What should have been a routine stop turned into a public spectacle of disrespect, disbelief, and disgrace. But that wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The video exploded, the outrage ignited, and the silence she stood in became the roar of a movement. She didn't scream, she didn't fight, she didn't have to. Her stillness was louder than violence, her dignity unshakable. And her story a brutal reminder that even heroes get handcuffed when ignorance wears a badge. She didn't ask to lead, but someone followed. Then thousands. Then millions. Now it's your turn. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. Let your voice be heard. The cold metal dug into her wrists as Sergeant Mia Jackson felt her face pressed against the dusty hood of her own car. The rough grip on her shoulder didn't loosen. She heard the unmistakable sound of a phone camera clicking nearby. Another and another. A man's voice shouted, "Get that angle." Get her face. Mia didn't move, couldn't move. The early morning sunlight broke through the thin fog over Gahanna, Ohio. Paint in the small gas station in sharp, unforgiven clarity. A woman in a grey hoodie whispered, Is she in uniform?" Another voice sharper cut in, "Don't matter, you see what she looked like?" Mia bit the inside of her cheek, refusing to give them the sound of her breathing shifting. Someone laughed behind her. "Yeah, bet she's one of those stolen valor types, you know how they do." The hand on her shoulder pressed harder as if daring her to flinch. She didn't, she couldn't. She was already calculating, counting. There were at least 6 phones pointed at her now, one officer gripping her shoulder, another pacing somewhere behind. She heard the static of a radio crackling, low and undecipherable, the sound of gas pumps beeping, the unmistakable tension of a crowd that didn't know whether to step closer or back away. Her jaw tightened. She knew how this looked. A black woman face down in military camouflage, cuffed like a criminal on the hood of a dusty sedan. She wanted to scream that her name was Sergeant Mia Jackson of the 174th Infantry, but she knew better. Her uniform didn't stop them. Maybe nothing ever does. 2 minutes earlier, Mia had swiped her card at pump number 4. The gas flowed as she leaned back against her car, tearing open a protein bar with her teeth. She scrolled through her phone lazily, thumbing past weather alerts and unread messages until her mother's name popped up. "Morning, baby. Call me when you get there." "Be safe," Mia smiled without thinking, chewing slowly as she hit reply. "Will do, Mama. Rolling out now." She tucked her phone into the front pocket of her uniform jacket, glanced at her reflection in the dark window of her car, adjusted her rank patch out of habit, and stretched her shoulders. The base was 2 hours away. She had done this drive more times than she could count. She knew the routine. Gas, snacks, go. Nothing out of the ordinary. She screwed the gas cap back on, climbed into the driver's seat, and started the engine. But as she adjusted her rearview mirror, she saw it. A patrol car easing into the lot, creeping slow like it had nowhere else to be. Her eyes narrowed. 2 officers, both white, both staring right at her car. Mia's pulse ticked once, then settled. Routine. Stay calm, nothing to hide. She turned off the engine, stepped out again as if on cue, pretending to double-check the pump, but their car stopped behind hers. No lights, no siren, just a silent wall of presence. Mia turned slowly to face them, hands visible, posture neutral, but alert. The driver's door popped open first. The taller officer stepped out, sunglasses low on his nose, one hand resting casually on his belt. The second followed slower, his hand already grazing the latch on his holster. Mia's jaw tightened. She knew the type. The first one spoke, voice too casual to be honest. "Morning. Can I see some ID?" Mia nodded, keeping her voice steady. "Yes, sir. It's in my jacket pocket." She moved slowly, retrieving her military ID and state license, handing them over without a word. He took them, glanced down, then up again with a crooked smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We got a report. Someone matching your description, pretending to be military. You mind stepping over here for me?" Mia's breath caught for half a second. She knew the script, knew better than to argue, but the anger surged anyway, rising like bile in her throat. She swallowed it down. "I am military," she replied, voice firm but level. "My unit's down," he cut her off with a wave. "Yeah, sure, just step over here." She obeyed, moving toward the front of her car. The second officer circled wide, boxing her in. "What's your unit again?" the first one asked. Mia answered slowly, clearly. 174th Infantry. "I'm on reserve duty. I'm en route to base." He hummed like she just told him the sky was blue. "Uh-huh." He handed her ID to the second officer without breaking eye contact. "Run it." The second officer stepped back, pulling out his phone like he was doing something official. Mia knew damn well they weren't checking anything. The first officer stepped closer. "Got any other proof on you?" Mia pointed to her car. "My orders are in the glove box." He didn't move. Instead, he nodded to his partner. "Cuff her." Mia stiffened. "Excuse me." The second officer didn't hesitate. The cold steel closed around her wrist before the question could finish leaving her lips. "You're being detained for questioning," the first officer said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Mia's body hit the hood before she could blink. And now here she was, face pressed to metal, surrounded by strangers holding phones, her dignity bleeding out one snap at a time. The officer leaned in, voice low. "Should have kept driving, soldier." But Mia didn't answer. Her mind was already moving to the only move she had left. Because behind her, just past the edge of her blurred vision, that patrol car was still running. And in that car, her phone was sitting unlocked on the passenger seat. One number burned into her speed dial. One name, Colonel James Carter. And this time, the chain of command was about to answer. Officer Kyle Monroe adjusted his sunglasses, stepping back from the hood of Mia's car like he had just completed a routine traffic stop. His hand hovered near his holster, not because he needed to, but because he wanted her to know he could. Officer Frank Dalton stayed a few steps behind, his posture loose, almost uninterested, arms crossed like this was just another slow Saturday morning. Monroe turned to Dalton and nodded, his voice pitched loud enough for the crowd to hear. "We got an anonymous tip. Possible impersonator. She fits the description." Dalton didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His silence gave Monroe all the permission he was looking for. Mia clenched her jaw, feeling the cuff marks already starting to burn into her wrists. She twisted slightly to face Monroe, keeping her voice level. "I showed you my military ID. You have my state license. My orders are in the glove box. I am not impersonating anyone." Monroe smirked like he'd heard this 100 times before. He leaned down closer to her ear. "Funny, that's exactly what someone pretending to be military would say." His words were oily, meant to be heard by the gathering crowd. Mia could hear the whispers rising again. Some doubting, some recording, no one stepping in. Dalton shifted his weight but didn't move. The communications desk, when his secure line pinged with the encrypted message. He read it twice, his jaw locking tighter with every word. This wasn't just about Mia anymore, this was a pattern. And now he had the proof to dig deeper. He leaned over the comms officer's shoulder. "Pull every complaint tied to Officer Kyle Monroe." She didn't raise her voice. She raised the standard. She leaned back, staring at the sentence for a moment before adding one more line. The question that had stayed with her from the moment it all began. What would you do if you saw injustice in uniform? Walk past or walk through it? She hit send, closed her laptop, and stood up because she already knew the answer. This wasn't a story about going viral. It wasn't a story about headlines, hashtags, or breaking the internet. It was a story about what happens when someone refuses to shrink in the face of humiliation. When standing still becomes the loudest protest of all. Mia Jackson didn't ask for cameras, she didn't ask for attention, and she certainly didn't ask to be made an example. But when it happened, she didn't flinch, she didn't perform. She stood calm, steady, and unshaken, and in that stillness, someone watched, someone followed, and the ripple kept moving. Maybe you've never stood in a uniform. Maybe you've never faced cuffs for doing nothing wrong. But the question remains for all of us: what would you do if you saw injustice in plain sight? Would you walk past or would you walk through it? If this story moved you, if it made you think, we invite you to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge, inspire, and spark the conversations that matter.